March 2008 was a big day for you. You signed with the Buffalo Sabres organization. What did that moment mean to you, especially as someone who went undrafted?
It was a dream come true, and even what made it better was being a Western New York kid. So I grew up going to Sabre games, going to Rochester American games. So for me to sign my first NHL contract with the Buffalo Sabres and then actually play my first professional game with the Rochester Americans, where I grew up and played youth hockey for the Americans organization. It was pretty surreal, and something that I don't take for granted, and not too many guys get to do that. And I was lucky enough to play for both my hometown teams with Buffalo and Rochester. So yeah, it's pretty special now that I'm a little bit removed from the game to look back on and understand um, how truly rewarding and how fortunate I was to get that opportunity with Buffalo.
And then someone you played with, you remember Tim Convoy when you were with
I
the
do,
Pirates?
I do.
One of the best memories I have is we were at a game. I don't even know when it was. I think it was like 2010. During warmups, he was chirping someone on the other team, and he took their stick and he threw it over the glass, and it ended up hitting someone in the head. I'm wondering if you have any good Tim Convoy moments because he's kind of like a meme when we were younger with his flow and stuff.
Yeah, no, Timmy. I I knew him, when I was in Portland. Actually, he played for Albany, and we knew each other, and then obviously became teammates in Portland. I actually ran into him earlier in the year. He's coaching his son with a youth hockey team in Minnesota, so I got to see him when they were out here in Chicago. Just a great guy, great teammate, would do anything for his teammates. But yeah, I remember that game. I believe we were playing Manchester, and I want to say
Yeah,
the
yeah.
guy's stick he took was Johnson. I don't know, it wasn't Jamie Johnson, but his last name was Johnson. He was the tough guy for the Manchester
Yeah.
Monarchs, and yeah, that was to this day. Like, I tell a lot of people, like, that season, I think we won the Atlantic Division, lost in the first or the second round to Binghamton, but that was probably my favorite year as pro hockey. We had, Timmy Convoy, Mark Parrish was another vet. Matty Ellis spent some time with us that year. We just had a really, really good group. Colin Stewart was there, and we had such a good team. I thought we had a team good enough to win that championship in that 2010-2011 season. It's funny, the team we lost to ended up winning it. I believe it was Binghamton. But yeah, Timmy, I'll never forget the. There's a time when we were playing in Buffalo. He was playing with Albany, and him and I were just going at it. Like, and I knew who he was. I knew how tough he was. And do you guys remember the fighting necklace that, like, all the baseball players used to wear?
The one that you guys had?
Yeah,
Or
like a it was supposed to help with your, like, circulation or something in your neck. It was like a cool necklace that all, like, the baseball players used to wear.
I don't
Oh
remember
wait, I
that.
is it like the what was it? Like the rope necklace thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
so whatever it was, it had like titanium or something. I don't know, to, like, with circulation. Anyways, long story short, we're playing in Buffalo. I'm playing for Portland. Timmy's playing um, for Albany, and we're both going for a loose puck. And he hit me so hard that, like, my necklace just exploded off my neck, and, like, I had to go get it in the corner. And we just laughed about it because, again, like, I always felt that he played, he would play a hard game, but at least with me he was always honest. There's nothing, anything cheap with him. So that's something I'll never forget when that happened. And then the other thing is the uh the year we moved from Portland to go back to Rochester. Timmy, and do you guys remember Travis Turnbull?
I do. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, so
remember.
I
Timmy
remember.
and Timmy and Travis Turnbull, we were all teammates the year before, and they got into it at one of our games in Rochester, and then, like, afterwards, we all just kind of had, like, a big, like, I don't know, make, like, we were all like, all right, whatever, it's over, it's done with. And that's kind of how Timmy was. He was always just, he tried to leave it on the ice, and then once it was over, um, yeah, it was over and done with. But one of the best guys I've ever played with for sure.
Were you a big superstitious guy back in the day? Because John mentioned how you used to do a full ice shot at the end of warm-ups, and were you like trying to be the last off the ice?
Yeah, I had some of that stuff in me. Like I chew or I wouldn't have gum in warm-ups. I would always kind of have like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. I don't know why that started, but that was kind of my thing. And then yeah, I always like to try to shoot a puck. Like at least the last thing I touched on the ice before I got off was just a shot that went into the net. Sometimes I'd actually shoot it down to the other end to see if I can put it in their net. Um, and then yeah, I really enjoyed kind of being, one of the last guys off the ice. I think other things is the way I would get dressed. Everything on the left side of my body would go on. I don't know necessarily think that was superstition. It was more habit and just like kind of how I always did it. Um, but no, like nothing crazy. Like sometimes I'd take my stick in between periods, other times I wouldn't. But didn't always have the same pregame meal, like to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, I think just the one thing I always did was the last puck I touched on the ice, I had to see it go in the net because it just got me in a good headspace going into the game because I love scoring goals.
Oh yeah.
What would you say your goal percentage was on that full ice shot? Did you score a lot of them?
Yeah, I'd say about 67%, maybe 75%, 3 out of every 4 in that range.
Did you ever go on a big hot streak like 5 in a row?
Yeah, there was a good stretch, and I don't know if it correlated with a goal scoring streak during the games too, but I can't. I think it was that third year in Portland where I probably hit like 4 or 5 in a row, and I was on a hot streak. With the team as well, scoring goals. So yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Who were some of the best teammates do you think you played with in Portland? Like some of the guys I remember, it brings back so many memories. Like Nathan Gerby, Mark Mancari, Paul Byron, Luke Adam. Like who were some of the guys that you enjoyed playing with the most?
Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky that like we had really good teams. Obviously, Kevin Deneen and Eric Weinrich were our coaches, but like from '08 to 2011 when the team moved back to Rochester, like we had Gerby was rookie of the year, I think '08, '09. Tyler Ennis was rookie of the year 9-10, and then Luke Adam came in and was rookie of the year 10-11. So getting the chance to play with those guys, and I mean, obviously they all went on to have really good pro careers. I think Luke's playing over in Germany right now. I know Nathan was in the Columbus Blue Jackets organization for a while, and I believe Tyler Ennis is in Ottawa. So yeah, and then the older guys that we got to play with, Joe DePenta won a Stanley Cup in Anaheim. Brad Larson, who's now the head coach for the Columbus Blue Jackets, he was a really good vet that we had. Jeff Cowan played a lot of games in the NHL. We already talked about Tim Convoy, Mark Parrish, Matt Ellis. I think Matt Ellis is probably one of the best guys that I played with in Portland from like leadership, how to be a pro, how he went about his business. He's the assistant coach now with the Buffalo Sabres. Cody McCormick, played a lot in the NHL. And he was a super nice guy to be around. He was one of the toughest guys that was ever around as well. Like he could throw him. Colin Stewart was another NHL vet that we had. Spent some time with him over in Europe, playing against him over there. And then like we had Paulie Byron and Nathan Gerby, Timmy Kennedy, Jonas Enroth. He was a really good goalie for us. Marc-Andre Grignani was a stud defenseman, played some NHL games. But yeah, they did a really good job with their drafting. I think Mike Weber was another guy that was with us for a while. He's a coach now in the American League. So a lot of the guys that I played with in Portland are doing a lot in the game still and at a really high level. And like I said, Brad Larson, I think played that. He was the captain of that '09 2010 team, and he's now the head coach for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So seeing what he's done in his career post playing is pretty awesome. But yeah, three really good years, 3 really good teams, and played with a lot of great guys.
Yeah, what was your favorite memory playing in Portland? Because I feel like the atmosphere when we were younger and like now compared to the Mariners, it's like it was way different back in the day, I feel like. just
Yeah,
playing in Portland?
it it was a special place, and back then when we would play Providence 12 times, we'd play Manchester 12 to 14 times. Like you'd get some really really good rivalries. I don't know if you guys were at the game when we played Worcester. It was a school day game where there was a big line brawl at the start
I
of the
think,
Yeah,
yeah,
game.
I
we
was at,
were.
yeah,
I was
We
there
made
too. Yeah.
yeah, we it made national news. Like how
yeah,
can there be all these fights when there's a bunch of little kids in the building, um,
I
and
remember.
it's just like it was a special place to play. I don't have like I've got a lot of really good memories. I think one of my favorite memories was playoffs 2011. I scored an overtime winner against the Connecticut Whale to win game. I think it was like game two. That was pretty cool to get that OT winner. Um, and then I feel like I want to say there was a time I might have got one of the teddy bear toss goals. I can't remember what year it was, but packed house, and I think I scored. And they started chucking the bears on the ice, so that was pretty
Mhm.
cool. I want to say that might have been in 2010, 2011. Um, but yeah, there's so many great memories. A lot of big moments in my career that I got to share with my teammates, and a lot of it started in Portland.
I want to bring up you played your first NHL game in Ottawa. What was that whole experience like?
That was It was amazing. I think you start out playing hockey as a young kid. Um, you don't necessarily, yeah, there's always a dream. I'm going to play in the NHL. And then you don't realize how hard it is to get there. Um, and then the fact that it was going to be for my hometown team, the Buffalo Sabres, added way more to it. But we had just gotten back from a road trip out in Texas, and I was playing in Rochester, and we're leaving Texas, and there was more injuries in Buffalo the night before, and the flight back, there was my bag and Marcus Foligno, who's obviously still playing right now. So our bags didn't get tossed on like the freight truck that was going back to Rochester. They actually brought the bags on the plane, and we're thinking, okay, like potentially we're going to get called up, and then we end up landing in Rochester. And like my phone starts blowing up from friends and like the assistant general manager up in Buffalo, like, hey, like there's a car waiting for you. And I still didn't even, like, our head coach didn't even tell us yet. So then we're walking to get our luggage after we land, and Ron Rolston, who was the head coach in Rochester at the time, grabbed me and he's like, hey, just so you know, you and Marcus are getting called up to go to Ottawa. There's a car waiting for you to take you there. And, Rochester to Ottawa is probably a 4.5 hour drive. So we got our stuff, and my wife and her parents were actually in Rochester. They came from Maine. They were visiting for the holiday. So I didn't even get to go home and like see them because I had to get right in the car and head to Ottawa. But yeah, got in with Marcus, and we went to Wegmans, big grocery store in Western New York, and grabbed a bunch of stuff. I remember calling my dad, and he was on a business trip somewhere, so he wasn't able to make the game. But just being able to share that moment with him, obviously my other family members as well, my wife especially, just to tell him, hey, like I'm going to play in the NHL, was pretty awesome. And then once you get there, and we got checked into our hotel and got to the meal the next morning, morning skate, all that stuff, like the nerves started flying. Like I'm just like, holy smokes, like I'm really doing this. And Matty Ellis, again, he was on Buffalo at the time, just a big mentor of mine, just says, hey man, like you belong here, go out, have fun. So I'm going out for warmups, and I was a little bit concerned because I hadn't heard that my wife was there at the game yet. And then our PR guy told me, yeah, she's fine. She's here. She's picked up her ticket from will call, like, just go out, play. And they didn't do rookie laps back then, but me and Marcus were both skating around in warmups without our helmets on. There's some really good pictures of me. flying around out there without warm-ups. And then game started, and it was business as usual. And I was surprised how confident I was that I felt like I fit in. I played, just over 14 minutes. I played some power play time. So I got a legit opportunity, which was amazing. And, I can't thank the Sabres organization enough for giving me that chance. And definitely something, playing your first NHL game in Ottawa, something I'll never forget. And I don't know if you guys know who Adam Nicholas is, but he's a big skills coach. He's the head of development now for the Montreal Canadiens. But really close friend of mine. He drove himself, Garnet Hathaway, who's obviously plays for the Washington Capitals, another Maine kid. And I can't remember who the other kid was, but he drove from Maine to Ottawa to be there for the game. So he was in attendance, which, him and I have a really good relationship now too. So, Garnet Hathaway got to see my NHL debut as well. I tell everyone that's why he wears number 21 is because of me, but he might disagree with that.
I don't doubt that.
But yeah, it was pretty special.
Later on in your career, you played overseas. I feel like a lot of players say that's definitely a great experience. Like hockey's different over there. The fans are more into it and stuff. I just want to see how you saw it in your eyes.
It's definitely different, I think. There comes a time, especially when you're a bubble guy that maybe could play in the NHL, but really good American League player. And then, I had veteran status, so you can only have a certain amount of those players on your team in the American League. So, I went overseas for the first time during the lockout year in 2012, and I liked it a lot. It was a great experience, but I wanted to come back. So I think that off season, 13, 14, I signed with Washington and spent the year in Hershey and Adirondack. And then after that, I felt like the writing was on the wall that I was going to keep getting harder and harder to get an American League job. So went back over to the league in Germany. Our first daughter was actually born over in Germany, which was an experience in itself. But yeah, 3 straight years, 1 year Germany, 1 year Austria, then 1 year back to Germany. It was a really good experience. I think, I tell guys all the time, if you have opportunity to go over there and play. Like, it's different. You don't play as many games. The hockey's still really good too. Like, there's some really, really good players that go over there and make a nice little career for themselves. And I think for me and my wife and our young daughter, it was a neat experience to see different parts of the world. We got to do some traveling. We got to go check out some big cities that normally we would never be able to do if we stayed stateside. So, having that opportunity to, like I said, see different parts of the world, doesn't happen without hockey. And I really enjoyed, my time over there in Europe.
I don't know if it was 2017 or 2018. You were playing in the coast and you got a back injury, which ended your career for like 5 years. And then you came back in New Year's Eve, 2021.
Last year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, it was tough. It was my 2017-18. I really, really wanted to get back to North America, and I thought, hey, like, career's winding down. Let's try to see if I can crack an American League lineup. And I signed with Reading, and I ended up going to Lehigh Valley's training camp that fall. Did pretty well. Played 1 preseason game in Lehigh Valley, scored, and then went to Reading, knowing I was going to be like their captain and a leader of that team. And I loved it. It was great. It was great to kind of take a step back and not necessarily worry about the numbers. Like, it was more my leadership, how I can set a good example for these young kids, like, and how I can encourage. Like, obviously I still wanted to play my best and be a good role model and a good leader. But I think it was a 50. I took an elbow to this in South Carolina and had to get face surgery, so that sidelined me for about 6 weeks. Came back from that injury, was playing really well, and then later on in January hurt my back, missed a couple more games, came back from the back injury, probably a little bit too soon, and then hurt it again. And then, so yeah, like I had that back injury and I came back probably a little bit too soon. I should have rested a little bit longer. And then once I got it looked at, I realized like how bad it really was. So, credit to Kirk McDonald, he was the head coach at the time, someone that I actually played with, and played against in the American League. He told me, he's like, hey, like, we'd love to keep you. I could put you on waivers, see if someone claims you, or we could release you, or you could just kind of stay and help out on the coaching side of things for the rest of the year. And that's what I did. So I think that was like, I don't know, middle of March of 2018, when I was like, all right, I'm probably not going to play again this year. And going into that off season, I still, that was the first year the Mariners were coming, there was going to be hockey back in Maine. I wanted so badly to play on that team. It just wasn't going to work out. And I was very distraught. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I wanted to stay in the game as much as possible and do something. I loved coaching when I was in Reading, but it was hard to come to terms with the fact that my playing career was going to be over. And I'm so thankful that the opportunity at Bowdoin came available for me, and to get my first coaching job and not have to relocate the family again was pretty special, because I know in this business, in the game of hockey, it doesn't happen like that very often. So I stepped right into coaching in that fall of 2018 with Bowdoin in the women's program, and now here in Chicago. But it was tough when you play that long and you play at all these different levels, and then you don't get to really go out on your terms. And my body was just kind of failing me, and I didn't get to have that final send off and know like, hey, this is probably my last game, so make sure to enjoy it. And then fast forward to New Year's Eve last year, and I was able to play for the Iowa Heartlanders against the Fort Wayne Comets, and that to me was I don't know, like that was a really, really special moment, just to get that opportunity again. Through Derek Damon, he's a UMaine grad, played hockey up there. He was the assistant coach in Iowa. He's the head coach this year, but there's a relationship with him and our associate head coach here in Chicago. And that was when taxi squads were still happening, and there was, AHL teams were thin, ECHL teams were thin, and all these guys kind of start coming out of retirement. And I was like, hey, I think I could still play. And sure enough, I get the opportunity to play in the Coast again, 4 years after I stopped playing. And that was awesome, just to, play in front of like 9,000 people on New Year's Eve. Played pretty well too. We lost the game, but just to be out there back in the locker room with the guys, playing, I started the game, so I was able to just soak it all in, because again, like I knew then, like I'm like, okay, this is definitely probably it. Like I'll probably never play another game again. Like I might as well just enjoy it. And I made sure to take in every single moment of that game. And then, 2 weeks later, I got to play again and scored. So that was even pretty special as well. So last year was a wild year. Like again, never thinking I was going to play hockey to playing, 2 professional games in the span of like 2.5 weeks, and scoring a goal in one of those games. So, pretty cool for me.
I just gotta finish it off by saying I think it's just wild how, like, me and my brother were watching you in like second grade and like talking to you, and then now we're sophomores in college. It's just crazy how we meet again, basically.
Yeah, no, the game of hockey, it comes first full circle quite a bit, and it's a great game. And I think you guys are, doing a good job getting out there and talking to people in the game. And I think, I have no problem sharing the stories. But I it's, you guys are a big reason why I love playing in Portland so much, even though you got, probably maybe we had conversation, maybe we didn't have conversation, but here we are like 10 years later on a Zoom call, You guys are showing me autographs that I signed when I was playing for the Pirates.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. Definitely takes me back and again makes me appreciate what I was able to do during my time in Portland.